Mr. Speaker, I rise to join my colleagues in debating the 2014 national budget, which was delivered to this august House by the Honourable Minister of Finance. Permit me at the outset, Mr. Speaker, to express disagreement with the misapplication of the theme, A Better Guyana for All Guyanese. This is an unrealistic title for an almost 3-hour litany, and it's more suited to be labeled Making a Better Life for Some Guyanese. The 2014 budget, touting a whopping $220 billion, makes very little provision for the ordinary public servant.
That's right.
This anti-labor budget does not in any way offer hope for the ordinary man becoming a real man. Although there is neither provision for any new tax nor increase in taxes in the budget, the ordinary public servant will continue to struggle to provide a good life for his or her family. This contrasts with decades ago when a public servant could have maintained his family, educate them, cater for medical expenses, and provided for an occasional vacation for the family. Mr. Speaker, despite the new measure of an education grant of $10,000 to every child attending school, this cannot suffice adequately for the small income earner. This measure, though it may sound well, will give more to those who already have, and are therefore not much needed in such assistance. I would wish to suggest, Mr. Speaker, that some more thought be given to this measure before it is being implemented. Since the child whose parent can afford will get the same benefit as the child whose parent is struggling to send him or her to school. It would have been better if a feasibility study was conducted so that the disadvantaged would have benefit from double or triple times the 10,000. In addition, I ask, Mr. Speaker, what has been considered for ordinary nurses, teachers, the men and women in uniform, the sweeper cleaners, the ward maids, etc. They too desperately need an increase in salaries to make ends meet. A $10,000 non-taxable grant on their wages and salaries would have been a good start in an effort to alleviate the hardships they face. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Finance and all other ministers should park their vehicles occasionally and go to the marketplaces, go to the bus parks, and hear the plight of our public servants, as they would be better equipped to make informed decisions when it comes to the livable wage or salary for downtrodden public servants.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, after the budget was presented, I had the fortune of speaking with an old age pensioner who is very dependent on her pension for survival. I asked, are you satisfied with the 5% increase? These were exact words. With $625, I will buy a pound of beef for $500. And the smallest packet of curry powder, but still I ain't got no rice.
That's right.
So how I cooking?
That's right.
In the year 2014, sir, $625 is just giving the pensioners almost nothing.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, of all the rosy-sounding developmental works the Honourable Minister alluded to in his presentation, very little caters for the human development, the most important human resource of any country.
That's right.
In Budget 2014, Mr. Speaker, billions of dollars have been allocated to the health sector. Ironically, although we hear of the amount of money being spent in this sector, one will be left in shock upon visiting some of our medical institutions. Only a few weeks ago, the West Demerara Regional Hospital was short of some basic drugs to treat patients. Mr. Speaker, if the West Demerara Regional Hospital doesn't have drugs, then it is logical that there will be no medical supplies at Lenora, at Wakanam, at Legwan, and at all the other health centers and health posts in the region. Mr. Speaker, the Social Services Committee of this very 10th Parliament visited the Myconi Hospital in the month of March. And what a tragedy it was to discover that the institution was short of insulin. It begs the question, if we spend so much money on drugs, how it is then that there is a shortage? Maybe it is time to zero in on the procurement process associated with drug purchases for patient care. Further, these health institutions continue to be short of medical doctors and other critical staff. Although the government boasts of training umpteen doctors and nurses, I therefore cannot help but wonder, are we training these health sector professionals for export? And I would not even touch on the embarrassment the government brought on itself with the recent attempt to train a batch of nurses, for which a minuscule amount passed. Mr. Speaker, we continue to witness the rapid decline of the sugar industry. Despite the astronomical amount of money that is being pumped into this major sector, it continues to fall short on its targets. A multi-million-dollar factory designed and constructed at Skeldon against advice from knowledgeable, experienced technicians has only served to trigger sugar into its lowest losing its sweetness. The annual injection of billions of dollars is not clearly the answer to Gaisuko's woes. For until we have the right kind of management, Gaisuko will continue to go to ruins.
That's right.
It was said somewhere during this debate that under a PNC government, we closed Versailles and Leonora sugar estates. That might be so, Mr. Speaker. But although they were closed, Gaisuko was reaching and surpassing its targets on a yearly basis. Mr. Speaker, Iflot Estate, like so many other estates, did not reach its target in 2013. And from the current trend of how things are progressing, it seems that this would again be the case in 2014. All of the graduates from the legendary Port Morant Apprentice Training School, only one can be found at Iflot Estate. Traditionally, Gaisuko was a cooperation persons ran to for jobs and prided themselves in being an employee because of the favorable terms and conditions. Today, qualified persons, both technical and administrative, are placing employment at a hitherto glorious establishment down in their priority job placement. In fact, due to the inefficient administration, many attached to Gaisuko are looking for an opportunity to bail out. The managers from whom accountability is demanded are not allowed to manage. Take, for instance, Mr. Speaker, if a person is to work overtime, a directive must come from the head office approving this intention. This situation of accountability without responsibility was unheard of in the time of Gaisuko, when it was reaching and surpassing the production targets. If the government does not act wisely and do so now, Gaisuko will be a corporation we once had. Mr. Speaker, another major agricultural crop of Region 3 is rice. And from speaking with farmers, one would instantly recognize that they too are experiencing severe constraint in this sector. Unless we forget, on the day the budget was presented to this National Assembly, dozens of farmers came from Region Number 2 out of disgust to protest against the government for the hardship they are experiencing as a result of the clueless manner the state is managing the rice sector.
That's right.
This grave shortcoming has resulted in the perpetuation of adversities to rice farmers. including not being paid for paddy sold since 2013 second crop. Rice farmers throughout our country are in dire need of a better stake in the industry by way of technical and economical support. Education, Mr. Speaker. Although we welcome the news, both teachers and students of Zeeburg Secondary and St. John's Secondary Schools on acquiring new buildings, the education sector in Region 3 is not without its monumental challenges. Once again, the Department of Education staffers continue to function in a cramped building with some officers occupying plywood cubicles as their offices. These hard-working public servants now have access to only one stairway of that building since the REO in its wisdom decided to close one stairway. This is an occupation health and safety breach and undoubtedly a fire hazard. Our trainee teachers continue to be housed at the Virginia Secondary School with no access to a library because the area of the building they utilize for training is wholly inadequate to house a functioning library. While this short-sightedness is happening, a building which once housed a section of Windsor Forest Primary School remains unoccupied and unused. Another case of short-sightedness, Mr. Speaker. The students of Virginia Secondary School have been relegated to utilizing a portion of land in the compound of the West Demerara Regional Hospital as their agri-plot. This discomfort exists even though a building which once housed the Practical Instruction Center Agri is left to rot, and more than 3 acres of land is becoming a forest. All of this is happening, Mr. Speaker, when this very government has introduced the SCCP program. And agri-science has a tendency to attract the largest number of students. I recommend, Mr. Speaker, that the Practical Instruction Center Agri at Fellowship be reopened. The Practical Instruction Center Industrial Arts is now being housed in one building, and students are forced to do both practical and theory in the same environment. And here again, the other more appropriate building to do the theory is being left to crumble. What foresight does this exemplify? Mr. Speaker, again we continue to see in the 2014, as in previous budgets, the machinations that will result in a wanton waste of money while simultaneously enhancing the gravy train for political associates of government. This historical revelation of an obvious absence of value for money regarding several road projects will intensify, and the trend of work not being done to specification, resulting in contractors becoming wealthier on the backs of the taxpayers. A few cases about shoddy work in Region 3 are some community roads, such as the Hague-Bagdam Access Road, Lanes Avenue, and the Denamsel Old Road. The main road leading to the Shortville Secondary School is sometimes impassable in the rainy season. Mr. Speaker, much more has to be done. Much more can be done for all Guyanese to have and enjoy a better life. If the title of the 2014 budget is to be taken seriously, for now, it is devoid of the realism needed to stimulate the human capital of Guyana. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, cannot support the passage of the 2014 budget in its present form. I thank you.